What's going on, guys? Mike here, and today I have a new type of video and a whole new type of series. Now, in my latest videos, you guys have been requesting one thing: what if videos. And honestly, I just got burned out making them. I felt like they were getting repetitive, so I decided to make a new concept and a new idea centered around what ifs. So I know you guys know what a redraft is. It's when you take the draft and redraft every player and put them on different teams. And I've seen a lot of websites do this, I've seen other YouTubers do this, but they really just redo the draft and end there. But that's not what we're doing. On this channel, we take things to the next level. So we're going to only take the first 7 picks of this draft and redraft all of them. And after we do that, I'm going to show you how the entire landscape of the NBA changes. So enough of me talking, let's just get into this. And welcome to the perfect edition of the 2009 NBA Draft. I'm the new NBA Commissioner, Mike Korzemba, and in the spirit of commissioners past, cough David Stern cough, I am going to change the decisions that actual front offices made. And so with my new power as supreme ruler of the NBA, let's begin the 2009 NBA Draft. First up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers finished this season with a staggering 19 wins, but do have 2 promising pieces in Eric Gordon and DeAndre Jordan. Now, in the original 2009 draft, the Clippers selected Blake Griffin. Blake would go on to miss his entire season with injury, but would recover and become one of the NBA's best players. This pick wasn't bad, but we can do better, because you can't pass up on a 2-time NBA MVP. So with the first pick, the new 2009 Clippers select Steph Curry. Steph has already proven that he can shine in California, and he will no doubt rise to NBA superstardom as a Clipper. But this pick does have several implications for the NBA in general. For starters, the addition of Steph causes the Clippers to win 4 more games in the 2010 season. As remember, they gained nothing from Blake originally, as he missed the entire year with injury. This causes the Clippers to slip down 2 spots in the draft, behind the Jazz and the Pacers. In the original 2010 draft, the Jazz took Gordon Hayward and the Pacers took Paul George. Since Aminu was ranked ahead of both Hayward and George on most draft boards, it is likely that either the Jazz or the Pacers would have taken him instead of their original picks. From what I can find, the Pacers were more sure of drafting George than the Jazz were of drafting Hayward, so in the new NBA, the Pacers still take Paul George, but the Jazz take Al-Farouq Aminu at number 8. This means that with the 10th pick, the Clippers land Gordon Hayward, a noticeable upgrade. Moving on, the 2011 season saw the Clippers trade Baron Davis and their first-round pick to the Cavs for Mo Williams. This was a money-saving move, so they still complete the trade. And when this originally happened, it was a complete disaster for the Clippers, as their first-round pick became the number 1 pick in the 2011 NBA Draft, Kyrie Irving. However, in the new 2011 season, the Clippers actually lose 3 more games with the loss of Blake, which means that they were instead slotted to pick 7th in the 2011 NBA Draft, and the Detroit Pistons now end up with Kyrie. And so if you're counting at home, you know what happens next. The big question: what happens to the Chris Paul trade? Now, in the original 2012 season, the Clippers made a blockbuster deal. They ended up getting Chris Paul for Eric Gordon, Aminu, the Timberwolves 2012 first-round pick, and a bunch of other assets. But in this updated NBA, the Clippers don't have Aminu, and plus their original pursuit of CP3 was driven by the dream of Lob City, which no longer exists because Blake Griffin's now on the Thunder. But with that said, I think the Clippers still will make this trade, and I think they'll be able to hold on to Gordon Hayward while doing it. The reason I think this is that while Steph Curry is technically at point guard, he's really more of a combo guard. Remember, we now think of Curry as an incredible lead guard who can score off the dribble, but in 2012 he was still growing as a player. He was more known around the league as a pure shooter. So I don't think the Clippers will have a problem sliding Steph to the 2 guard spot to make room for Chris at the 1. And as for keeping Gordon Hayward, we have to look at the Clippers roster and their value of their assets for the original trade. At the time, there were 2 young players on the Clippers roster who could be potentially moved in this deal: Al-Farouq Aminu, who was originally traded, and Eric Bledsoe. They both honestly held around the same amount of value, so I think the Hornets would have accepted either of these players in the trade. But the Clippers chose to hold on to Bledsoe because they had no depth at their guard spots. Now, with Steph on their roster, things change. I think the Clippers would be more inclined to let Bledsoe go in the deal and instead keep a potentially valuable wing in Gordon Hayward. So that's what they do. And before we can go deeper into the future of the Los Angeles Clippers, we must first return back to the 2009 draft. With the second pick in the 09 draft, the Memphis Grizzlies are on the clock. The Grizzlies originally took Hasheem Thabeet, a man you may know as your current fry cook at your McDonald's. So instead of taking him, we will select James Harden. Now, the 2010 Grizzlies originally turned their fortunes around behind a nucleus of Mike Conley, OJ Mayo, Rudy Gay, Zach Randolph, and Marc Gasol. This Grizzlies team improved from 24 wins in 2009 to 40 in 2010. From there, Memphis would continue to improve, eventually reaching the 2013 Western Conference Finals. And so, the addition of James Harden raises the big question. Are the Grizzlies 2013 title contenders? Which we'll get to in a second. For now, let's head back into the 2009 draft, where we find ourselves at the third spot. Originally, the OKC Thunder selected James Harden, but he's in Memphis now, so instead they take Blake Griffin. And with the selection of Blake Griffin, the Thunder potentially saved themselves from screwing up an absolute dynasty. Remember that in the 2013 season, the Thunder traded away James Harden, choosing instead to keep Serge Ibaka. But looking back, what you might forget is that the Thunder were forced to make this trade because of Kendrick Perkins' massive contract. Remember, the Thunder did actually offer James Harden an extension, and that extension was for 4 years and $54 million, which was only $6 million short of the max. And the reason they couldn't go over that max was because of one man's contract, Kendrick Perkins and his $8 million. But in this new NBA, the Thunder never trade for Kendrick Perkins because they have Blake Griffin. Remember, the Thunder only traded for Perkins because they desperately needed size. It would make no sense for OKC to take on such a huge contract if they already had Blake and Ibaka starting up front. So they don't. In addition to this, the Thunder were also unsure of whether or not Harden was worth the max. Back in 2013, Harden had proven himself as a valuable sixth man, but had not yet broken out and become an actual superstar. Blake Griffin, on the other hand, had more than proven himself worthy of a max contract in 2013. So again, in a series of moves that will save their future dynasty, the Thunder do not trade for Kendrick Perkins. They keep Blake and Ibaka and eventually trade away Jeff Green for future picks and cheap contracts, which raises the big question. Are the Thunder the next NBA dynasty? And we'll get to that, trust me. All of our answers will be had at the end of the video. But first, we need to reshape the rest of the NBA. The 4th spot in the 2009 draft is held by the Sacramento Kings. The Kings originally picked Tyreke Evans, who would actually go on to win the Rookie of the Year award and then do nothing else with his career. So instead of Tyreke, Sacramento selects DeMar DeRozan, which already gives us the big question. Does this even matter? The answer at first appears to be no, not really. In fact, Tyreke and DeMar put up nearly identical stats and efficiency ratings in their first 4 years in the NBA. It's not before year 5 that DeMar truly begins to make a positive impact for the Kings. But even that changes very little, as the Kings will still miss the playoffs with DeMar. The only thing that changes are that the Kings will pick a little later from 2014 and on. But they're the Kings, so I'm sure they'll still mess up every single one of those picks. And as for the Raptors, the loss of DeMar will hurt them, especially from 2014 and on. They lose a few more games, don't make the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016, but other than that, the NBA is really not that affected by this pick. Which brings us to the 5th and 6th picks, both held by Minnesota. At number 5, the Timberwolves originally selected Ricky Rubio, the Spanish phenom who has been a very average starting point guard in the league. So instead of Rubio, the Timberwolves will now select Jeff Teague, who becomes a future All-Star. As for the 6th pick, the Timberwolves originally selected another point guard who was somehow not named Steph Curry. So with the new 6th pick, the Timberwolves select Wesley Matthews to give them a solid young core of Teague, Matthews, and Kevin Love. 3 players who all play different positions. What a concept, David Kahn. What a concept. And so the 2010 NBA season and draft are basically the same for Minnesota. But here's where things get very interesting. In the 2011 season, the additions of Teague and Matthews allow the Timberwolves to win 8 more games. This drops Minnesota from the 2nd pick to the 7th. At this point, the Timberwolves have a solid foundation of Teague at the point, West at the 2, Love at power forward, and Nikola Pekovic at center. What they really need now is a small forward. And taking a look at Chad Ford's big board, the perfect candidate jumps out. Slotted as the number 7 prospect in the 2011 draft, Kawhi Leonard is now chosen by the Minnesota Timberwolves. This will have an obvious impact on the future NBA, as the great Spurs teams of the real NBA's recent past were heavily built on the contributions of Kawhi, which means the Timberwolves improve massively in the new NBA, which also means that Kevin Love never becomes unhappy playing for a losing team and thus never gets traded to Cleveland. State. Which raises the next big question. If Kevin Love stays, what happens to LeBron? Remember, LeBron only left Miami to return to Cleveland because they were able to quickly build a championship contender. He had already wasted years of his prime playing with next to no talent with the Cavs, and he had no interest in doing the same thing all over again. Also remember that Kyrie Irving is no longer a Cavalier. He's playing over in Detroit, which means in the new 2014 NBA offseason, LeBron returns to Miami, which will have an obvious impact on the NBA, and again, we'll get to all of that at the end. For now, we wrap up the 2009 redraft with pick number 7. Picking 7th are the Golden State Warriors. Now, the Warriors originally picked Steph Curry, who would go on to turn their franchise around, become a 2-time MVP, and bring a championship to Oakland. Again, though, Curry is long gone, so the Warriors instead select Drew Holiday. While Holiday is a talented player, he's no Steph Curry, and this will certainly have a huge impact on Golden State's future, which raises the final big question. Does Golden State still win the 2015 title? The answer, of course, is no. Curry was the best player on the 2015 Warriors. In fact, he was the MVP of the entire league. Holiday, on the other hand, missed over half the 2015 NBA season with injuries, which raises another question: who does win the 2015 NBA championship? In fact, looking at the NBA, who wins the 2013, 14, 15, and 16 championships? And don't worry guys, we are finally at the point in the video where I'll answer your questions. We're going to focus on the 4 teams that changed the most: the Memphis Grizzlies, Los Angeles Clippers, Oklahoma City Thunder, and Minnesota Timberwolves. So let's take a look at how those 4 teams individually changed from season to season. In the 2013 NBA season, all 4 teams saw changes to their record, but only 2 showed real improvement. The Thunder only gained 1 more win with Blake and the loss of Kevin Martin, and the Clippers actually lost 3 more games without Blake. The Grizzlies, however, find themselves finishing the 2013 season as real championship contenders. The addition of Harden to their already solid roster brings Memphis 8 more wins and propels them to the top of the Western Conference. In the playoffs, they ride this momentum to a Western Conference Finals win over San Antonio, as the addition of Harden and the subtraction of Kawhi Leonard from San Antonio is enough to get Memphis into the finals. There they are matched up with the Miami Heat, and while Harden puts up a heroic effort, he's still overmatched by the best player in the NBA. Again, LeBron James leads the Heat to his 2nd NBA championship, but the changes in NBA history are just getting started. The 2014 season again brings more losses for the Clippers and more wins for the Grizzlies. But the real story here is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Fueled by a ridiculous core of Westbrook, Durant, Griffin, and Ibaka, the Thunder win a near NBA record 68 games and cruise into the NBA Finals. There, they are met by the Miami Heat in a rematch of the 2012 NBA Championship. But this time, with a lot more championship experience under their belt, the OKC Thunder prevail, winning the 2014 NBA Finals while denying LeBron and the Miami Heat their chance at a three-peat. Which brings us to the offseason, and again, LeBron chooses to stay in Miami. But we also see another change, as the Clippers are in desperate need of a big man to pair with DeAndre Jordan. They target Pau Gasol and lure him away from the Chicago Bulls, promising him a chance to win an NBA championship. And the regular season shows us that Pau's new decision was a great one. With Curry, Hayward, and DeAndre Jordan all coming into their own, the Clippers win a league-high 64 games, just barely edging out the Grizzlies for the #1 spot in the West. And while in the original NBA, Steph Curry was awarded the 2015 NBA MVP for leading the Warriors to the league's top record, the new 2015 MVP is instead awarded to his teammate Chris Paul. This gives CP3 one of the 2 trophies that has forever eluded him in his Hall of Fame career, and he was determined to win the 2nd trophy, the one that really mattered. And in the end, he got his wish. The Clippers run through the playoffs, defeating a tough Memphis Grizzlies team in the Western Conference Finals in 7 games before matching up with the Miami Heat in the finals. These finals proved to be a cakewalk for the Clippers, as the Heat are undermanned with the loss of Bosh due to injury. And so the 2015 NBA season ends with Chris Paul hoisting the championship trophy to the sky, finally fulfilling the dream of a lifetime. Which brings us to our last season, 2016. Unfortunately for the Thunder, not much changes, as they still lose Blake for most of the season and again early on in the playoffs. The Clippers win a league-high 66 games, but again lose Chris Paul to an injury in the first round of the playoffs. Still, they have Steph Curry, Gordon Hayward, and DeAndre Jordan, so they're able to reach the Western Conference Finals through some tremendous performances. There, they are actually met by the Portland Trail Blazers, who are fresh off a series win against the Timberwolves. themselves. In this new NBA, the Trailblazers still have LaMarcus Aldridge, as he was not willing to leave Portland for the Spurs without Kawhi Leonard. And despite the loss of Chris Paul, the Clippers are still able to defeat the Blazers in 6 games, giving us a finals rematch between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Miami Heat. The original 2016 NBA Finals found LeBron James matched up against Steph Curry, and this new NBA finds us with the same finals pairing, though each player is now on different teams. Looking back just a few months, the story of the original 2016 NBA Finals was LeBron James. Against the Warriors, LeBron was able to vanquish the league MVP and win his 3rd championship. And in this updated NBA Finals against the Clippers, history plays out the same way. LeBron plays out of his mind, Whiteside controls the paint, and Wade gives the Heat baskets when they need them the most. The 2016 Miami Heat win the NBA championship, giving LeBron his 3rd ring while furthering his legacy as one of the all-time greats. And so there you have it, guys. What happens if the 2009 draft was redrafted? I honestly thought it was really cool how Chris Paul ends up an MVP and a champion. CP3 is one of the great NBA point guards of all time, and he deserves some recognition. Meanwhile, also in the league, the Thunder win the championship, and there's no way Durant leaves that team. So in this NBA, we don't have to hate him. And that's about all I have for you guys today. If you're new to the channel, I highly suggest you subscribe. This is an NBA related channel, so I just make basketball content like this. I look at NBA history, I do opinions. Those people sometimes disagree with, but I really think if you love basketball, you'll love subscribing to this channel, and I'd love to have you. And as for my current subscribers, thank you guys so much for your support. You know it means the world to me. Thank you so much. And as always, my dudes, have an awesome day, and cue the music.
Wow.